Alright everyone, in this one I want to go over my updated kinetic witch Vex build. If you saw a couple days ago, I released my very first version right as I hit level 50 UVHM 5, but this is going to be the fully fleshed out. I have a bunch of gear now, and know that you probably saw from the title, this is not going to be using the crit Jacob's knife. While yes, this build is going to use bleed, it's not going to use the infinite crit stacking that throwing knife can't provide. Now with that being said, if you do use that throwing knife, what you see currently is going to be even better, but if you're anything like me, I still have not gotten one to drop personally. Please Gearbox, what do I have to do? So with all that aside, this build is going to be very strong for mobbing and also very strong for bossing. While it is a more crit focused build, you can still get by if some bosses have annoying crit spots and still get some stuff done. But overall, this build is a ton of fun, and I honestly don't see it getting that much better from here unless you get that throw it knife. There's a lot of cool synergies going into this build, and I'll show everything off in the video. So if y'all do enjoy or learn anything new, consider doing all the normal YouTube stuff. It really does help the channel out and goes a long way, and I truly appreciate it. Also, if you'd like to see a written guide to this build, check the links down below and I will have an infographic there for you as well. But without further ado, let's jump into the updated kinetic witch build. But all right, starting off with the gear, this is going to play a lot more into the build this time around than it did in my previous videos. So first things first, you want to run a kinetic weapon, with the hot slugger being probably one of the best options. If you don't know, this shotgun is very, very strong for a couple different reasons. One, it just has a lot of damage. The perk it has is nice because it can stack up to 90% increased damage. It also does splash damage, which is going to be a very, very massive part into this build. So keep in mind that it does do splash damage and you can get benefits from that. Now, other weapons, I'm gonna be honest, I pretty much only run the hot slugger, but I do have this Oscar mic with the space laser alt fire, and this thing could do some very, very fun stuff. Now, sometimes it just doesn't hit the boss, but as you see, it does 18,552 damage every 0.2 seconds. It is also kinetic. And that alt fire can absolutely slay if it does hit. Sometimes, like I said, it just kind of misses, but when it does hit, it hits very hard. But getting to the bottom gear, this is where we can actually start taking advantage of enhancements. And our enhancements are going to be Deadeye and Trick Shot. So with 3 Deadeye, it's going to grant us 30% gun accuracy, 25% critical hit damage, and also 50% critical hit damage that stacks up to 5 times for 10 seconds. So essentially, you could just keep hitting crits over and over. You're going to be doing a lot more damage. Now for Trick Shot, we'll take 2, so we get 5% gun reload speed, which is kind of whatever, but then we also get 10% more critical hit damage. This is what I was talking about. You do have to play into a critical hit style, but with the hot slugger, with this, it just does an insane amount of damage. Now for everything else, for your ordnance, I literally just have something random on here. If you do get the throw knife, it will make the build better, but you don't have to have it. It's just kind of what I was going with here. I'd never even use it. This is just something I have thrown on here to get the Deadeye enhancement. Now for the rep kit, this is honestly up to you, but I would involve something that does damage instead of survivability, because you're pretty much already going to be unkillable with this build. So now if you have amp, you can get 200% more damage after you use it. Splash damage, again, it will actually take advantage of the hot slugger. So you can just get a bunch of damage. You can use a rep kit, but again, this is kind of up to you. This is just what I go with. Now, for where the build gets very interesting is the bottom row. So first off, we are going to be using the Teen Witch. You probably saw this in my last video, but this makes it so when you have maximum health, your lifesteal is actually going to apply to shields. And if you have maximum shield, your lifesteal is going to grant you an overshield. This also grants 25% status effect damage and 8% lifesteal. We'll talk more about the skills when we get into the skill tree, but essentially this basically makes you unkillable. You're always going to be at max health, so you're always constantly regenerating your shield. If you have a shield, you're going to constantly regenerate an overshield, and even if those both run out, you still have lifesteal for the health. So you basically just can constantly keep healing everything, and it makes it so it's almost impossible to die. This class mod is very, very disgusting for survivability, but on top of that, it also has some very cool interactions for when it comes to damage as well, not only with the skills, but also with your shield. Now the shield we are going to be running is just going to be a legendary shield, but just make sure you can actually get the amp version. So when energy shields are full, shots drain 28% of those and grants 100% increased gun damage. Now I know what you're already probably thinking, is this literally just not the B shield combining together, and do they even work? And yes, they do. So if we just shoot a normal shot here, it does 45,756, I think is what it was. And now that we have a full shield, we can see it goes up to 100,000. But what's cool, you see that the shield didn't go down because we actually healed it with the lifesteal from our class mod. So we could just keep getting these insane damage numbers over and over without even having to worry about our shield recharging. You basically just have an infinite B shield almost in Borderlands 4. Yes, you have to play into it a little bit more. It's not just the shield doing it, but it's disgusting. Like, you get crazy amounts of damage with these two combined. And the cool part is since this also does grant an overshield, you can basically have the overshield kind of be your main tankiness, and then you just have the shield constantly go down and up, go down and up, go down and up to grant the amp shield. Now, I do also have power boost on here, which actually is pretty good with my setup, but it's not super needed. This does just grant more damage, but just make sure you get an amp shield with the Teen Witch combined together. It does some crazy things. And now the final thing is just your enhancement. And honestly, the main thing here is just going to be the stats. And as you see on this one, I have increased gun damage, I have increased shotgun splash damage, and I increased gun status effect chance. Now, obviously, all those are pretty decent. The splash damage will work with the Hot Slugger. Again, more gun damage. But if you can get like shotgun crit damage in general, just gun damage, anything that grants damage to a shotgun is what you want to run with this, and it can do some crazy things. Now, if you were curious where to get these legendaries, the Hot Slugger is actually going to come from a very, very long boss name up here in the top, kind of like right of the map, more middle of the map actually, but it is going to be the Callous Harbinger of Annihilating Death. That is where you can get that. Now, if I'm being completely honest with you, with the class mod, the Teen Witch, I've gotten this to drop from a random ad, and I've also gotten this to drop from Splash Zone. I don't think this is a Splash Zone drop. I could be wrong, but I don't know the exact location. If someone does, or once we find out in the future, I will definitely pin the comment if you leave it down below. And that infographic, I will also update it once we get confirmation. But as of right now, I'm not 100% sure where to get this from. But again, the two main components are just the Hot Slugger and the Teen Witch. I really wouldn't throw in the Oscar mic. And again, I'm pretty sure I got this just from an ad as well. So definitely be sure to go farm with the Hot Slugger, and I will let you know in the future where the Teen Witch can come from. But all right, now let's actually jump into the skill tree and talk about how we're going to make this build even better. Now, first off, we're going to be taking 5 points and Volatile Essence. So this is going to grant us 20% splash damage, and it's double when we have our action skill active. Once again, the Hot Slugger will actually do splash damage. I know I've said that probably about 4 times, but I want to make that clear that you will get damage increases with that. And since your action skill is going to be active pretty much permanently with this build, you're going to be able to use this quite a lot. Now, next up is going to be 5 Unleashed Attunement. So when we're attuned to kinetic, we get 10% lifesteal, 25% reload speed. This is great. This is obviously just nice benefits to have. Next up is Bloodletter. So whenever we get gun or skill critical hits, we can apply a bleed. This skill is obviously becoming one of the strongest skills on Vex. Even if you don't have the throwing knife, even on its own, it's still very, very good. This is a 50% chance to proc. You get 30% of the gun damage per second. And since you're going to be able to do so much gun damage because of the other things we were just going over, you can have crazy bleeds with this build. As you see here, we've kind of stacked, and we're doing near 200,000 for a bleed, sometimes 150, 200,000 just bleeds going over and over again. Obviously, they will go down, but if you're constantly spamming crits over and over, they will continue to stack up, and you can do crazy bleed damage again without having to even make it crit. Now, next up is just going to be material components, so we get more kinetic damage, kinetic status effect damage. This is obviously good since we're playing into kinetic weapons. And then we are going to be running Great Vitality. So whenever we kill an enemy, we are going to get increased max health capacity and health generation. Honestly, this is not like too important here, but it's just nice to have since we're kind of playing into health. The other perk is skill damage, so I really wouldn't recommend that too much, but we're using that to get down to Essence Leech, so we gain lifesteal. This is going to be doubled while our action skill is active. This is great because again, this will pair with Volatile Essence, so while our action skill is active, we are going to be able to get double the benefits, so you want to be in your action skill quite a lot. And then finally for this tree, we're going to be running Blood as Power, so we gain bonus kinetic damage with guns based on our current lifesteal while our health is full. Since our health is always going to be full because of our class mod, that means we are going to get the maximum benefit of this all the time. And since we have a bunch of lifesteal, not only is Essence Leech just helping us out with our class mod survivability, and now is also granting us increased damage, which is great. For our action skill, I do run Geist Wave and Heart Piercer. Heart Piercer is really the only option you can run for capstones here, but with Geist Wave, you basically can apply a debuff to an enemy and you can do a bunch of damage. I have ran Witchy Trigger Finger, which is also very good, but the reason I don't like it is that with Geist Wave, you basically lose health. So when you lose health, that means your class mod is now going to heal your health because of the lifesteal instead of constantly healing your shield to grant the amp shot. So I prefer Geist Wave. If you want to take the capstone off and run Witchy Triggerfinger, you can. You do just have to play around the cooldown of the Eldritch Blast instead of just constantly having it because of something like Heart Piercer. So it's kind of up to you. I just like running this because, again, you're killing bosses in like literal seconds. You don't really need the constant damage stack, and you already one-shot everything at mobbing, so I don't really think you need it too much, but having that debuff is nice. And then you can basically just stay in your action skill forever because of your others tree, and that is going to be things like Grave Substance. So when you get a kill, it's going to restore percentage of your missing action skill. Now, in my previous video, I was running Grave Harvest, but in all honesty, you don't really need that too much. You basically can already have infinite with just Grave Sustenance here, so you could just, this is just meant for mobbing. I mean, even in bosses, if it is taking a little longer, you can kill ads around to keep it up, but this is going to let you have infinite Incarnate. Now, next up is Enchantment, so we gain bonus kinetic damage while our action skill is active. Again, another one while your action skill is active. You want to be in it quite a lot, so you can just get that bonus. And then I just have 3 points in Hasty Fiends, so we get more movement speed and damage reduction. Since this is a very aggressive build, having that movement speed, having that damage reduction is very, very nice. Now, we do have to go over our class on because this also is actually granting some extra perks here. So first off, it is just going to be corporeal. So whenever we have an overshield, we get increased damage, and this also increases our maximum overshield capacity and duration. So obviously we're going to have an overshield pretty much all the time with our class mod. That means we are now just getting even more damage, which is nice. And then we also play into conjunction here. So we gain increased gun damage the more full our shield is, and we gain damage reduction the less full our health. So if we're ever getting weak, we're getting a 58.3% damage reduction with just 3 points in here, 4 from our class mod. And then on top of that, we also are getting 42% increased damage when our shields are full. Now, this is just the more full, so even if you don't have it full, you're still getting damages. So again, that first shot from the amp is going to be doing even more because of this now, and again, you're going to constantly heal it, so you can do some crazy damage. If you want to, you could take the points out of Hasty Fiends and put them in here just to max it out if you would like to. It's totally up to you. I just prefer Hasty Fiends kind of for the mobbing of here, but if you want more damage for bossing, you can use Conjunction. And you could also maybe play into Bloodshot if you are playing into a rep kit that does damage, say something like this one. But in all honesty, I really didn't feel like you needed it, and I just kind of like playing into the more, I guess, mobbing aspect. But even with this alone, you already just do insane amount of damage to bosses. And again, you don't have to take advantage of the crit throw-a knife. Now, for the final part of the build, we do have the specializations. The main one is going to be one shot, one kill. So every excess damage that you get, it will be stored, and then you can do that excess damage to the next target. You can basically just insta kill targets in mobbing scenarios. You can do so much damage. If you kill a smaller ad, then shoot a boss, it does so much damage. It is very, very good. In the survivor tree, we are also going to be running Bullish Scared of Me and the best defense. So this basically makes it so whatever you have the most of, health, shields, you're actually going to get a bonus. Since you're always going to have max health with this build, you are going to get 30% damage reduction and 30% increased damage dealt just permanently. The only time is obviously if your health goes down, but that is very rarely with this build because of your class mod. So these are just great benefits to have. And then I also have Contamination, so critical hits will grant increased status effect application chance. Since you're gonna be landing crits a lot, you can get more status effect chance. So this can just hopefully make it so you can proc bleeds a lot more often just to do even more damage. Again, these bleeds can chunk with the amount of damage, everything stacked into your hot slugger here. They will chunk regardless if they're critting or not. Just the bleed alone is still very, very good. And then if you were curious, this is my customization. I'm running the Down and Outlaw helmet to kind of give that, sheriff look going on since we're running the hot slugger. I am also gonna be running the agent to just have a different little, I guess, body type going on. I'm running Fault the Law for the style, color scheme, and then for the colors, I'm basically just running the default one. And then I have the traffic cone color, very, very nice description. And then the Morning Glory down here for the tertiary. So if you want to make your Vex look like this, definitely be sure to copy it down. Anyway, so that is going to do it all for this build. Let me know what y'all think about it down in the comments below. Again, if you haven't gotten that throw-a knife to drop, or you just don't want to use something that will probably get nerfed here in the future, I would definitely recommend giving this build a shot. Also, if you don't really like minion builds and you play Vex and you want a more just solo carry setup, this is 100% the way to go. It does so much damage. You're pretty much unkillable. It's a ton of fun to play, and it also takes advantage of some crazy fun synergies. I'm extremely happy with how this turned out, and I hope y'all can enjoy it as much as I have. Anyways, though, that is going to do it all for me. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope y'all have a great day. Peace.